Welcome back to Boomer's Playground, and today we're going to be going over section 214, the switch statement. So I wish I would have saved this, but back when I was still learning, I read an article and I didn't really have any guidance from anybody in the industry, and this article was just like bashing the switch statement, and I really don't see it being used a whole lot in JavaScript. And we'll show you why as we're going through this. But it's still good to know because most other languages have this in them, and they're used pretty heavily outside of JavaScript in my experience. So the switch statement, it really is just an easier way to do a bunch of if checks. So, you know, like we could do if thing, you know, else if other thing, you know, else if other thing, you know, so on, so on, so on, so on. And so what the switch statement does is it makes it easier to kind of handle cases like that. And so what you'll do is you'll start it with the switch, you'll pass in some variable, and then each case is literally just checking, is x equal to this thing? Whether it's a number, whether it's a string, a Boolean value. And so here it even shows. And an interesting thing to keep in mind is in a switch statement, it's always the explicit check, so the strong check. So it's checking type n value, not just type. So here it's just saying it's checked, and so it really just like falls down the line, and then you have a default at the end, which is kind of your catch-all. So here's an example of a switch. So A is going to be whatever 2 plus 2 is. That's obviously 4. So now we're checking, okay, is A equal to the number of 3? Well, it's the number of 4, but that doesn't match the number of 3. Case 4 checks, oh, is it the number of 4? And it is. And so we'll alert, and then we'll break. And I think they go over it. Okay, cool, they do. So yeah, so then we hit this break, and it's gone. If it would have been 5, it would have got here. If it would have been none of them, it would have got down to default and just did that as well. It compares it to the first one, which is 3, not there, 4 matches, blah, blah, blah. So now here's a problem, and I think this is where the article was correct, even though it's not wrong, but it just like I think they didn't consider this. So if you don't put these breaks in, it will cascade through. So the same exact one where we just get this alert and nothing else, in this instance we would get alert, and then we would get too big, and then we would get I don't know such values because we don't have that break in there. So this was true, and it just falls through to everything else underneath it. And I think that's why that article was written however many years ago. Just always make sure to use your break statements if you're going to use a switch case like that. Switching case allow arbitrary expressions, so you can even do, you know, addition, subtraction, you can do anything you want kind of in there. Here, yeah, so here, oh, you see we have the plus sign there, and that's because this is a string, and just remember the plus sign turns it to a number, so we're checking numbers, not strings. This is kind of a dumb use case, but it's just showing us, okay, we have the string of 1, and B is 0, so in here we're saying, okay, check the number of A, which is 1. And then in this case, it's 0 plus 1, which that is 1. So does 1 equal 1? It does. And there you go. You can group cases. So if you want the same thing to happen for multiple cases, you can put them together like it shows here. So we have our case 4. And then here we have 3 or 5. They're both going to do the same thing. And then our break. What's kind of funny is the reason this works is the downfall of this up here. So it's like you'll see that a lot in JavaScript where it acts a little weird, and you can kind of abuse that to do cool things like this. And that's all that's saying here. Type matters because it's always the strict equality check, like I explained earlier. So here, prompt, enter a value. Remember, prompt gives us back a string. So 0, 1, 2. This will never, ever, ever, ever happen because that's a number and we're getting a string. It runs for 2, it runs for 3. The result is, yeah, so kind of what I just said. Yeah, so that's switch statements. Again, I don't see them a whole lot. I really like them. They're super readable, but I think there's just this bad stigma in the JavaScript community, and I don't know why. So, well, let's go to the tasks here. All right, so they want us to take this switch statement and rewrite it as an if statement. So, all right, so we have that right here. And so let's just do, actually, you know what, screw it, whatever. So we're checking against this browser variable, which isn't created anywhere, but that doesn't really matter. And if it's edge, we want to do this. And if it's one of these 4, we want to do this. And if it's none of these, we want to do this. So there's a couple different things we can do here. We could do if browser equals edge. Yeah. And I'm actually going to, I know you can, I don't like doing those one-liners. Console.log edge. And then we can do if browser equals Chrome or browser equals Firefox, and then we could add the rest of them, but you get the idea. We'll do others, and then we'll have our else here, and this will just be everything. So this is actually, like, this is pretty bad. I probably would never write this, but I just wanted to show that this is one way to satisfy this. So we have just our if check there, and then we have our if check here. We need this else because we have our default statement here. So this is really just the catch-all. It's like if it's anything else. What you would more likely do is this, is you would do if that, else if, then we would add all these in here, and then we would have our else. Alternately, if you wanted to be a total jerk and just eat up lines of code, you could do each check like this, and then we'll still have our else at the end. So here we do this else check here, then Firefox, and then we could add Safari, we could add Opera as well. This is dumb. I personally think the best way to do it would be this way. And then where you just keep chaining them together. So we have our one, we have our multiple check here, and then we have our final else case right there. So that's how I would do those. Let's see what they did. Yep, and so they did that last one, like I said, the one that was kind of my preferred May. We have our if, even though it's because they're longer lines, it's breaking it up, but it's the one if, then we have our else if with a bunch of or statements in there, and then we have our catch-all with the else. Here, rewrite the if into a switch, so kind of the opposite of what we just did. So let's take a look at that. All right, so here we're taking a prompt, we're turning it into a number. So let's do, I guess we could do switch A. We already know it's going to be a number. And so here we could do case 0. Console.log 0. And so with the console.log, we have to wrap it in. Actually, I don't know if we do. I guess it really doesn't matter because we're not going to do it anyways. But and then don't forget this break statement. That's super, super important part. So then we have case 1, which will just be the same thing. 1, and then again, don't forget our break statement. And then we have our final one, which is case 2 or case 3. And again, don't forget your break statement. And that will satisfy this one. Let's see if that's what it gave us as well. Switch A, 1, 2, and 3. Perfect. Another thing I just kind of wanted to quick point out as well is this does run top to bottom. So if you do have a default at the end, some other number, you don't really need the break on this last one, because if you got this far, there's nothing else for it to cascade into. But just again, for readability, I would still always add this break. So just my take on that. And so that's the switch case. Again, not super used. Again, I'm not sure why. I don't know if that article I read, if people just forget the break so often that they're just like, forget it. We're never going to use these. But like in Ruby and in Crystal Lang, the languages we use at work, like these are used all the time. So hope you guys learned something today. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, leave them in the comment section below. Discord server link is in the description. Like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one.